Spook time! Spook time! It be spook time! Hey, how's it going, guys? John Atomic here, and happy Halloween! It be Hallows Eve, and all the spooky, scary stuff starts to, I don't know, appear. Anyways, happy Halloween, everybody. So today, in order to celebrate, what is better on YouTube for Halloween other than horror games? You've seen horror games all over the place. They've been on the platform since, I don't know, the early 2010s. All the jump scare reactions and the thumbnails with the and scary, you know the gist. Anyways, initially I was going to do a video today celebrating Halloween by talking about my favorite horror games, but I decided to switch that around. And instead, we're going to focus on what I consider to be the absolutely best horror game of all time. And if somehow you're able to play it, you're lucky. Anyways, to quickly run down my list, since I'm not doing that other planned video, I'm going to give some top recommendations here for horror games. And we're going to run down the list, starting with the Outlast series. Then we've got Alien Isolation, Resident Evil 2 and 7 are two of my favorites. Resident Evil 3 coming in at a close behind those guys. It was good. I mean, Nemesis is cool, but after playing through all of these horror games and having played through them many times and have been jump scared many times, none of them can compare to a tiny little game known as PT. Some of you might know this, and some of you might know where I'm going with this, but I wanted to do a video today diving into one of the best, if not the best, horror game or just pieces of horror media that I have ever witnessed, in my opinion. PT stands out to me as one of the best pieces of horror media that I don't think will ever be able to be recreated or recaptured again in the way it was. Back in 2014, this game took the internet by storm, and now we have just passed 6 years since this game has come out. But of course, if you tried to go and look for this game today, I'm sorry to disappoint you, you will not be able to find it. But in order to really understand why I consider this game to be the best horror game you could ever possibly play, there's a bit of its backstory that I think plays a very, very important part into why it is widely well received to this day. But this game was so terrifying to the point where I even think about certain parts to this day and it still gives me chills. Which obviously says something. And now, ladies and gentlemen, turn down the lights, do whatever you do to get in that spooky mood, as I'm going to dive into my absolute favorite horror game, PT. The trailer for Silent Hills that never saw the full light of day. The game was initially announced at Gamescom 2014 without any knowledge of who the developer was, what the game entailed, or really anything about it. All that was known was that it was out now and apparently extremely scary, shown in the game's trailer. Upon opening the game, you find yourself waking up in an empty room with someone apparently cracking the door open. When passing through this initial door, you find yourself in a very narrow corridor that you presume is connected to a larger house. Walking through it the first time, you can hear a radio in the distance until coming upon it closer, you can then hear the story it is telling.
While the family was gathered at home on a Sunday afternoon. The day of the crime, the father went to the trunk of his car, retrieved the rifle, and shot his wife as she was cleaning up the kitchen after lunch. When his 10-year-old son came to investigate the commotion, the father shot him too. His 6-year-old daughter had the good sense to hide in the bathroom, but reports suggest he lured her out by telling her it was just a game. The girl was found shot once in the chest from point-blank range. The mother, who he shot in the stomach, was pregnant at the time. Police arriving on scene after neighbors called 911 found the father in his car listening to the radio. Several days before the murders, neighbors say they heard the father repeating a sequence of numbers in a loud voice. They said it was like he was chanting some strange spell.
The radio announcer is describing multiple crimes committed by fathers after apparently being driven insane by hearing a repeated sequence of numbers on the radio, 204863.
State police say this string of domestic homicides appears unrelated, though it could be part of a larger trend such as employment, childcare, and
Brushing it off as a creepy radio story, you continue through the hallway only to find you starting at the very beginning once again. The game then progresses as you loop through this corridor multiple times, each time having something different or having something changed. Throughout the game, you will encounter a ghost known as Lisa. Lisa will haunt you throughout the game at different points. She appears like a ghost, possessed, twitching uncontrollably, and overall, very, very fucking creepy. I mean, literally, just listening to her voice is absolutely terrifying. Later on in the game, you will encounter a fetus in the sink that initially starts crying and just, to begin with, just really creeps you out. There's not much else to this fetus at the very beginning besides knowing it's probably the dead child of Lisa and that it is extremely fucking creepy. However, later on in the game, the fetus does probably one of the absolutely weirdest things you will have ever seen, and it absolutely gives you an instant feeling of disturbance.
You got fired, so you drowned your sorrows in booze. She had to get a part-time job working a grocery store cash register. Only reason she could earn a wage at all is the manager liked how she looked in a skirt. You remember, right? Exactly 10 months back.
I love horror games that use glitches. Glitches, I think, is something that can produce a very, very genuine scare because it's something that isn't supposed to happen. For example, in the original Five Nights at Freddy's 1 game, there was a glitch that, by a rare chance when you die, you would see an empty mask of Bonnie's. This scream was told to last between 1 minute to even up to 10 minutes, not changing. Just sitting there, staring at you. It's the fact that this isn't supposed to happen and you think something is obviously wrong gives you instant chills. PT takes this in its own light, however, where in one of the loops, the game seems to break. All of a sudden there's a tear in the screen, you hear the number repeated again.
63 2048 63
over and over until the game finally crashes.
48 63 2048
The game will bring up one of these following crash screens. However, looking closer, there's some very, very odd messages in them that honestly, when reading, just make me feel very weird and very, again, disturbed. The game finally finishes with its last loop with a final puzzle that took forever to actually break. Once you finish the final puzzle, the game then ends with a trailer for the rumored Silent Hills. And of course, that sweet, sweet face of Norman Reedus pops up, only to be never seen in that universe again. What's super wild about the story of PT and almost adds to, I think, some of the horror is the story that went on behind it. There's even a theory that this wasn't even a trailer for the actual Silent Hills, and instead was a way for Hideo Kojima to publicly shame Konami for his falling out. If you're very interested in following in all the details in this backstory, I'll link a great video done by The Great Debate that summarizes all this theory. What's presumably the first version of this playable teaser was shown as an early concept movie at the Tokyo Game Show 2014. In this version, we see a completely different hallway but similar concept. However, a lot more monsters and other subjects. This is presumably what was supposed to be the actual trailer for Silent Hills before it was turned into whatever PT is today. It breaks my heart so much to know this could have been an actual possible horror game. One of the reasons I think PT has an incredibly well done atmosphere is because the game makes you feel claustrophobic. You know the familiar hallway, but it feels tight and enclosed, and you feel trapped, stuck with something else inside. There's something about the way Hideo Kojima crafted this nature to where something always kind of seems off, which I think produces the overall genuine horror. You never feel totally safe. I don't want to make this a long video really delving into all the details, as there's already so many on YouTube talking about this one game, but I did want to create this video to show my appreciation for it. Although it breaks my heart we'll never see an actual full Silent Hills game done by Hideo Kojima, Norman Reedus, and Guillermo del Toro probably, there's a part of me that's glad it didn't happen. And here's why. The fact that this trailer was swept under the rug, deleted from PSN, and to never be seen again, I think adds a very creepy element to it. The game has kind of taken on its own form of a modern urban myth. Kind of as if the game was a ghost to begin with. It was here and now it's not. I'm actually really hoping someday down the line we'll be able to see Hideo Kojima try to do another horror game again. The scares and the way he created tension and this fear was so brilliant. I'd love to see what he would actually do with a full horror game, whether it had Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, or any of this. And that is my summary on what I consider to be the absolute best horror game. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a spooky, scary Halloween. Again, check out any of those other horror recommendations I gave. I think they're incredible games and they will definitely scare the shit out of you. In the meantime, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Don't touch that dial now. We're just getting started.